Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is presenting pet psychic Aminah. Today, we're going to be discussing how we can coexist cohesively, humans and all living creatures. Let's welcome pet psychic Aminah. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Nice to see you today.
You too. Great and sunny where you are, I'm sure.
Actually pouring. We're expecting a major storm, so
could you bucket some over our way? We could use the water.
It is interesting how they're extremes, isn't it?
Exactly. We either got too much or not enough.
Yes, for sure. And I really love this topic because you have really brought a lot of light and inspiration to me around this topic, because it's something that I really think about on a regular basis now. And I wasn't really thinking about it so much before we started working together on this show. So thank you for that.
Well, and thank you for the platform to get that passion out. And, you know, you don't realize until you get this scope of just really dialing in on very specific things. And I did notice, looking back at our shows, that I mentioned coexisting like every time. I don't think there's one time I missed it. So having us really center on that, as opposed to it just being a side piece that comes in, I truly believe we can coexist. And I'm still struggling with the mosquitoes. There's my
yes.
my footnote.
I agree with you on that. You know, yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, yesterday I had the fabulous task of putting up the hurricane shutters as we prepare to leave here. And the interesting thing was that they've been sitting outside since we took them off in November. And as I pulled one after the other, there were creatures living there. So there were lizards and there were worms and there were spiders. And in the past, I would have just been literally freaking out. And I thought, hey, this is where they've been living, you know? So, hey guys, time to get out. So I looked at it in a totally different way than I would have before. So I thank you for that.
Well, and thank you for being so real, so that everybody realizes that, first of all, I don't see the point in tagging people for their phobias. If you're afraid of water, if you're afraid of the dark, if you're afraid of clouds, there are people that are you, whatever that is, a smell triggers you, because what people don't give themselves enough space to say, okay, this is a problem. How do I move forward? Or maybe I don't want to. If you're afraid of heights, live on the first floor. That's really hard in malls, because a lot of them are now double stories, or you're going into a medical building, you got to climb the stairs. So there are times where your phobias and your limitations literally hamstring your life. You take a job because it's on the first floor. You don't ever get into a plane. So therefore you've missed all the world, but where you live. Right. People are afraid of cars. I've had a head-on car accident in my lifetime. And it's like, everybody's right. It's like slow motion. It's like, here it comes. Oh my God, that lady doesn't see me. She's in my lane. She doesn't see me. And I have 2 babies in my car. And I'm like, please be in your car seat, because they talk about how they're always crawling out. But I'm not afraid to drive. I got past that because it was so important. So you have to decide, will this be my life, that I'm afraid of dogs for the rest of my life? My sister she was bitten as a young child by a dog. And she, as a young person, was always afraid of dogs. And then she had children. and they wanted a dog, and they lived on a very big piece of property. And she decided that she could do this, but she had to really say, okay, this is really important to my kids. My husband knows how to handle the dog. I don't pick up poop. There's lines in the sand. But how do you go with getting past those? Everybody's different. Facing them means whatever is different. And Dr. JACALYN, I would like you to actually share how we really had a good time, I think, that's on my side, on your phobia with spiders, especially in the shower. I don't know about you, but that's a very vulnerable place in the bathroom. And depending on what you're wearing, jammies or not, or whatever. And you really walked us through that. If anybody goes back through our first, 10 videos, we had Bob, or whatever you named him, living in your shower.
Yeah.
So,
and actually the Bob left and someone else came back yesterday, and it looks like Bob, but I said, are you Bob? But of course I didn't get an answer. And the interesting thing is that this one is right over the doorway. So as you walk in, it's there. So I kind of just go like this when I walk in. But before, as you know, I would have been freaking out. There's no way I could even be in that bathroom. And now it's almost like, I don't know, kind of comforting to know that something else is there. I know it sounds crazy.
I'm not alone.
Yeah, I'm not alone. And the spider has a right to be there. So I'm just glad it's not a giant spider. That would be different.
See, my biggest thing is the mosquitoes. Because they leave, I'm a target for them. I don't care how much garlic I've eaten, nothing ever worked. And I would go and have them just everywhere. And that just was unhappy. I have been bitten by a spider. I have been bitten by a snake, luckily non-poisonous. I have been bitten by dogs, cat. I had my hand in the mouth of a baby grizzly bear. It ate something it shouldn't have. I went into mother mode and went, "Ooh, no, we're not doing that," and because it could have killed her. But the co-handler with me didn't see it, so that's why there's two of us. So we do see those things. But you go through those fears and you say, "Okay, I'm gonna swim in the ocean. There's sharks in the ocean, and I don't know about you, but I live by the Pacific Ocean. I have been touched by mysterious things that were not seaweed. And so you go, am I never going in the ocean? And if that's your decision, honor it. But I decided that even with the salt water, I would experience that and leave it up to putting really good energy out there. It really works. If you are in a really good place, happy, balanced, that's not always what we can be, but Dr. JACALYN, you're the perfect example of, you got stronger and stronger as you encountered your spider every day, had to use the bathroom, had to go in, and you just state your thing. You stay over there. I'm going to stay over here. You stay over there. And then you developed a fun, I mean, all the stories you told us, everybody should go back and see these, some of our other shows. And you talk about the things you guys talked about that day, or what you shared. And I did that as a child all by myself. I would make up stories, and I was telling God most of the time. And then I talked to the cactus. They don't talk back very well. So you can make fun with your fear. And I encourage it, because when you take the fear out of it, then you can calmly decide, okay, how do I want to move forward without this fear? And it changes who you are as far as what you're capable of doing. It will free you from maybe walking by the barking dog at your neighbor house that just growls and growls and growls and growls and growls. And if you can get strong enough to stand outside their fence and know that their fence is solid, not digging under, not going, and I challenge you, stand across the street the first time and just stand there. The dog will eventually get tired of barking at you because you're not doing anything. But if you walk by every day, some dogs will bark forever. That's what they feel is their job in this pack. but you can say hi. You can do this. I do not recommend that you feed the neighbor's pets anything, because you don't know what their allergies are. You don't know what might make them sick. You don't know if you're dealing with a family that has them on a very strict diet for whatever reasons. That's not important. And you wouldn't want to cross that over by saying, I'm just going to give them a little bit of this, or this, I found it at the pet store, so it must be fine. Well, it's not fine for everybody. It's the same as you and I. We are allergic to things. I've been allergic to caffeine my whole life and didn't know it, because we grew up on drinking Coca-Cola and all that type of stuff. So I went to 7-Up and root beer. Not that I'm much of a soda drinker, but as a child, that was a real problem. It created a great deal of swelling and pain in my body, but we couldn't figure out why until, later with tests and that type of stuff. So understand, animals are the same. They can have problems with the things you're doing. Perfume is a huge problem for the animals because their noses are so in tune to keep them alive. They can smell out anything. You know this as a dog owner. You know this. I don't care where you hide the bacon or the hamburger or whatever, they will find it. If you're, let's say you're thawing, a pound of hamburger. Well, you might want to thaw that in the fridge because, now your dogs were nice and little and short, but you get anything mid-size and above, or the cats. For a long time, we had an imaginary line where the kitchen started, because our kitchen had a pretty big opening. You could actually put a dining room table adjacent to the kitchen. And that was the magic line. Don't walk over that. And to keep them off the counters. Simple technique. Guess what I did? I took some foil, I squished it all up, and I laid it out, but it was all crinkly now. Foil does two things. It makes that noise. Mm-hmm. So the cat jumps on it, and guess what? It spikes them in the feet without puncturing their feet. So a cat only jumps on a surface that they know is stable. So if you put all kinds of unstable things like wax paper, you could tape it down, but it's unstable. So when they jump, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. And even a paper bag. That's why there's 100 things you can buy. I'm more of you'll know this reference. That I just thought of it. I would rather MacGyver it. Did I just date us?
Yes, you did. So I want to go back to a couple of things that you said. When feeding our pets, I know you mentioned not to feed other people's pets. When feeding our pets, we've had some people on the program about what's actually in dog food, for example, and that you should consider other alternatives. And I also know people who don't feed their pets, their dogs, dog food. They feed them broccoli and blueberries and all kinds of healthy food. What are your thoughts on that?
I would love to see us go grains and fruit and all that. Your dogs are going to be omnivores. So they're going to eat everything. They're going to lick the yogurt can, and dairy is not recommended in any kind of quantity. What we do with training is different. I will get bologna. I will get cheese, whatever, Cheese Whiz, terrible stuff. I don't know if cheese has ever been introduced into Cheese Whiz, but all you're trying to do when you're training is that little bit of interest in the mind going, oh, I want to pay attention to her. She's got something cool. And that's when you introduce a new topic, a new training, what is sit? Well, they need to hear you say the word when you say sit, and pushing their butt down doesn't work. It's pulling up on the leash, but you can show them to sit. Now, I don't mean you're going to go and sit. You could do that, as animals are different, but you want that razor focus. So what happens when you have bologna on your fingers, even if it's just a little piece, they are watching everything you do. If they're peanut butter driven, if they're, I can't imagine milk would be a thing, but yogurt driven or whatever, You want that in the very beginning of training, something that gets them to the laser focus. And then once they understand the vocabulary and what the command means to sit is my example, then you remove the food. So if you're going to let your children, furry or otherwise, but let's talk about human ones, to eat cotton candy every single day, I don't think they'd be very healthy, and they probably have no teeth. So this is the same thing with pets. You want to keep them with the healthiest diet. Now, dogs are going to love vegetables, most of them. They're going to like rice. They're going to like variety. You want to mix it up, not too many carbs, not too much protein, all of that kind of thing that your vet and your dog and the breed you have needs. Cats, on the other hand, are looked at as more as carnivores. But will they eat other stuff? Oh, yeah. We've all had them lick a plate clean from whatever was on it. But they typically eat mostly meat products and that type of thing. So you want to stay in there. Again, check with your vets. If you don't have a veterinarian, get one. Start interviewing. Find out who your friends are using and find one that speaks your language. I have heard so many stories about vets that haven't worked, and we can go into that. And I did an entire video on that's on my YouTube channel that interviewed a really amazing vet that's local, and we talked about things like this to teach people how to take care of your pets on your own, how to choose toys. If the toy breaks and little, like the balls is what I'm talking about, and little pieces come off, please throw it away because they cannot digest that. So if anything breaks off that they can digest, and I mean the strings on the rope, it's great for tug of war. It's great for, having a good time. But once they start to degrade, you really need to switch those out for their own safety and get really high quality things, not necessarily maybe the cheapest. I'm okay with, as a trainer, I'm okay with a little cheese whiz on the finger, because what are you going to get? Again, that laser focus. But it's not food. It's a training tool. So it's not like I'm advocating gum. So we're going to need to really think about that. I would love to see all of us talk with a trainer, read the books that are out there. There are so many amazing things that you can do at the library, and they have amazing training books. Find what works for you, your style of learning, but please get help. I get help all the time. I have a whole plethora of other professionals because we do it differently, and then we network, and I might not be able to help one client, but somebody else might. So we all are supporting each other, because what is the goal? The goal is coexisting. And you have to understand, why do we have rattlesnakes? So it's really heartbreaking for me to have been working with wildlife and hearing that people are going outside and just killing whatever gets too close to their home. And there's ways to prevent that. And even the exterminators have really come up with some amazing, more environmentally friendly ways to do the extermination. So your house isn't eaten by just termites, but you get cockroaches, or you get this, or you get that. There are so many nice, really healthier ways to go. Because I don't know about you, but when I had extermination done, we aired out the house, and the whole week I was so sick. I was so sick because I was so sensitive to the chemicals. And it was the middle of winter, and we had to leave all the windows and doors open so that we could truly get that out. But then I had to go around and wash everything, as far as all the counters, all the knobs, because I had small children. And what do small children do? Put their fingers in their mouth. all the time. What do dogs and cats do specifically? Lick themselves, lick the floor, lick their bowls. So these are the kind of things you want to just be aware of. And that's what I'm here for, is to help you think of those things, to say, hey, have you looked into the water bowl? If it's just a regular old Rubbermaid container and they've chewed a hole in it, maybe it's time to get a ceramic or a clay one. I know we went to raised dishes. A lot of people are doing that. So pets are not eating directly off the floor. And the idea was in the beginning, and you can ask a lot of people different ways, is to not have them hunched over quite so low, especially if you have a big animal. If you have a big German Shepherd, St. Bernard, any of those, you're going to really want those food dishes so much higher, that type of stuff. If you want to know how to get an animal from jumping on you, you have to stop it before it happens. And there's a bunch of techniques that I'm not going to show you here because I need more, but you can pull your knee up and it blocks them from getting their feet up on your chest. Because remember, I had German Shepherds, so they were a little bit tall, and it was blocking them. So it wasn't, oh, I love you, but don't get on me. There's also a way to grab their cheeks, their jowls, and just say off. It's a 5-second thing. Now with your little ones, you probably should go with something lower down on the ground. With the bigger dogs, you have to make those adjustments. But if you come at your animals with love and compassion, especially the dogs, they're pack animals. They want to be with you. They want to be a part of you. And your cats can do the same. Now, as you might know, and everybody here might know, I now have 3. Can't believe it. All rescues, but we took in a rescue that was not doing well at somebody else's home. And so we had to be really careful with her because they pulled her tail a lot. And so you can actually dislocate the tail from the body. It's bad. I've seen it. It just flops on their body. And I worked with an animal that it was after the fact. So she was very sensitive to it. Each one of our cats, though, is disciplined differently. It's the same with people. You have to train in the way that you can learn. So go to YouTube, go to the library, find a great trainer, whatever it is, but you'll be happier if you get the help you need to have a great relationship. I don't know about you, but I went to mommy classes with my dog, but I also did it with my kids. I didn't have kids and then go, oh God, I thought I knew what I was doing. No, you don't. And you get that support from other pet parents. This is what you're doing here also, Dr. JACALYN, is all the topics that you cover and on your shows are really supporting everybody with saying, if you didn't know, now maybe here's a neat way to do it. Here's another way to think about it. And that's why I love watching your channels, because I always learn something. If I watch for 15 minutes or 15 seconds or 3 hours, it's more like the 3-hour part. I turn it on when I do the dishes. I can turn it on when I'm driving, and because you've made it easy to listen and not just have to watch, but you can do both. So thank you. I mean, you know me, I love the platform, but I want people to try to think outside the box and think about your animals as sentient beings, as a right to be here, as much as we do. And then you'll come from a place of love, and then you'll have a loving animal.
Yes, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Because
It is.
if you make it a part of your life to treat other people, other creatures with kindness, then the world is going to be much more gentle and much more empathetic, as opposed to just filled with nastiness and judgment. And also, you've said this many times, for people who are considering buying pets, please make sure that you realize that they could potentially live for 10, 15, 18 years.
Right.
And I think people think about, oh, I feel a little blue, or it's Johnny's birthday. Let's go to
Yeah.
bed. And you know, think about, yes, that pet's going to be alive, you know, for a long time, hopefully. And you have to take care of it and always love it and do right by it and take it to the vet and get it, get shots and feed it the right food and
Yep.
all these things that we don't look at projecting into the future. It's like, oh, I need it now. It feels good now, but you can't do that with animals.
Right, right. And I love to bring up Tucker, which is he's passed now, but my daughter came to visit me when I was living in the Los Angeles area, and she's like, "Oh, look, Petco's having a sale," and I was like, "Oh, don't no, we are not the people who should go to a pet store because they're having all this. The rescue center is having an event," and of course, walked home with a 11-year-old cat who had been completely ignored. His brother was loved and hugged and taken care of, and they ignored him completely. So basically, I adopted a feral cat, knowing that he most likely would not get a home at his age. He was a big orange tabby. We love him. He was probably my second or third. And boy, was he tough. He didn't know how to do anything. He spent the first day and a half. I actually have pictures of him sitting in the sink in the bathroom. And I've got a picture of him looking in the mirror as I take a picture of him going, okay, nobody's going to believe this. And I needed to change everything into being very calm, not disciplining him on anything except for, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do this. And really, really going slow. He didn't have any idea. He lived in a home, but he was completely feral to what happens and where it happens. And he understood a litter box, thank goodness. But other than that, it was a wonderful experience and a lot of work, because guess what? A year later, not even maybe, he was sleeping on my bed. He was there waiting for me every time I got home. And I worked 12-hour shifts a lot. Cats are self-containing on a lot of it. And we had a wonderful 6 years together. He passed. So I hope I made a difference, but he made a difference in the way I trained. And again, I was older. I was more settled. Don't be afraid to take on the hard cases. I was really worried when we took on a kitten. It's like, oh gosh, we have two really older set cats, and she's been the perfect thing. But again, open your heart to whatever happens and go with it, because you're not going to get a lot of choices in cats or dogs on their personality until you live with them. I think that's true when we marry people and have friends too, and then you spend time with them and go, I wonder what happened to the other person.
Or if you go on vacation with someone, it's like,
oh gosh, yeah. that's yes, that is a whole different thing is vacation. We did that. We went to Alaska with family friends. It went well. It went really well, but it might not have. And we'd known each other for, I mean, I wasn't old enough. My parents had known them since the woman, the mother in the group, she was widowed twice, and my parents knew both our husbands. They knew each other that long, but I was too young to know that. So be careful when you adopt. It is a life. It is a life, and you should make that commitment for that lifetime. And it is hard because our lives change and our jobs change and our circumstances change. And that's what the shelters are for, yes. But there's so many great animals there. I mean, absolutely great. And I'm really lucky that we have exclusively done rescues, and we're able to do that. And you'll get the support. You'll get the support you need, I hope. Most rescues will.
Yes, I think you're right. And I also think we talked about this before, and I think it just warrants being mentioned again, that when you have an animal, be sensitive to the fact that they also have the ability to hear, and
Thank
the
you.
noise level, yes, the noise level in your home, or the way you speak to the animal. And we're not even talking about fireworks, because we've spoken about that
Oh,
before, but the tone of voice that you use as well.
right, right.
They can interpret kindness versus anger and anxiety, and
Yeah,
maybe, and you mentioned this many times before also, maybe because a dog, for example, has such good hearing, they actually know something that you don't know because they've
right,
heard something, or maybe they felt something intuitively, and they're acting the way they're acting to try to protect you. What are your thoughts about
right.
that?
I mean, you are hitting every nail on the head. And what I really want to stress with wrapping it into a little nice ball for everybody is watch them, pay attention. What you just said is, and respect them enough to say, okay, I'm learning German Shepherd, maybe, and I'm learning Irish
Mm.
Setter, and I'm learning cat. And everyone speaks differently or delivers it differently. So with a cat or a dog, I can look at them sleeping. And if I see a tip of an ear, I'm looking around going, okay, what do they hear? And 90% of the time, somebody comes and knocks on my door. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I've told this story before. When I first got married, we lived in a little bitty studio, and the cat sleeping on the couch, which of course pulled out to be the bed, and that was my entire floor. And my new husband said, "How come you always know when somebody's coming to our door?" I said, "Because you look at the cat." And that's ridiculous. He wasn't raised with animals. I said, no, go ahead. Look at him next time you think somebody's coming to the door. If he tips his ear, he's just listening. If he tips his head and opens his eyes, they're coming to our door. And the cat was always right. Because they want to know who's coming also. They want to know, do I need to be concerned? That's what they're taking from you. If you get nervous every time somebody knocks on the door, for example, they're going to want to know, whoa, who are we afraid of and who do I kill? Because they can get very protective of you, cats or dogs. Ferrets, lots of things can get more protective of you. So that's why it's so important that you learn balance, and animals really will do that for you. Why are animals so perfect as therapy animals? Animals come in, and now this is the huge controversy also. They're coming on planes and trains and all kinds of places because people are able to pet them and calm down. They take less medication. They don't need as many therapy appointments because they've got their pet. And guess what? Your pets never say, "Bah, too tired, I want to listen to you today." They always are listening, and they wag their tail, and they're thrilled to see you. So we can match that. But check out with your pets. Check in with your pets. See what they need just by watching, and you'll learn so much. But you've got to be ready to do the work. This is not, you get a pet and you go, "Oh, it's perfect." No, not all pets are. And that's when you get a professional and you say, "Okay, do I need more training?" Most of the time we do. "My pet need more training?" Yes, both of you together, so that you're on the same page.
Aminah, thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to take the last few minutes of our show, as
Mhm.
summer is approaching and people start traveling and they bring their pets. What's a safe way to travel with a dog or cat?
If you're pulling a trailer, then you need to realize that if the dog is in back, and I don't care if it's the station wagon or a truck and they're out in a carrier, or they're in a small carrier, you need to make sure that they are safe. It's the same thing as you wearing a seatbelt. So if you have, for example, a cat or a small dog in the car and you decide they don't need to be in a carrier, I can understand that idea, but what happens when a car hits you, or sadly you hit a bump in the road, or you hit somebody, your children, if they're not buckled in, you, if you're not buckled in, are going to have the same problem the cat or dog is. They're going to go flying. And so many mental illnesses, so many, that's not the right word I want, brain damage happens by that impact. So don't be afraid to have a carrier there and have them in it. I had a really scary thing. Again, I drove a truck, Tacoma. It was a double cab because I had my kids in the second seat, so full seat belts. And our German Shepherd was in the back bed, strapped in, the carrier strapped down into the hooks on the side. And so he was in there all comfy, little breeze going by because he had the side of the windows. And then all of a sudden I'm on a really rural road. It was a really busy time. I've never understood why this rural road is busy all the time, but it's a thoroughfare between some big towns in Southern California. And this guy did not like the speed I was going, so he decided to tailgate me while my Shepherd is in the back and my kids are in the car. It was terrible. It was terrible. And so finally it got so dangerous that I called the police on my cell phone. And I said, hey, I got a guy. I can't get him off. I've tried pulling over. I tried doing this. And now I've got people that are honking at him because they can see how dangerous what he's doing is. Those are the reasons why I was so glad that Jake, our Shepherd, was safe enough in that carrier. Even if we'd rolled, yes, he'd gotten a little bumped, just like the girls were in seatbelts, but we would not have been thrown out of the car. And then the car tip on us and that kind of stuff. And it was really great when the CHP drove up and said, oh my gosh, we got 3, 4, 5 calls about what was going on with you. So they later, the CHP told me later, they pulled him over and cited him because so many people called on their cell phone and said, hey, this guy is really harassing this truck because he wants her to go faster. It's not possible on that section of the road, which was 2 lanes. That's why carriers are important. That's why keeping pets leashed and that kind of stuff. You cannot, at least in California, you cannot any longer have an animal, a dog, in the back of your truck loose. It has to be tied to a leash or a carrier. And that law went into effect because how many pets got thrown out when they crashed? And it's terrible and gruesome just as much as it is with people. So be careful out there. There are reasons for those safeties because you'd hate for the other way of finding out that, oh, I could have done that better. And that's what we're trying to do, is educate people about maybe you haven't thought about this. And luckily that was as much experience as I ever want to have. None of my pets were in the car, in the other accident I had. So it was just me. It was just me and my little kids. But that they had car seats. And that's why that law went into effect. And my youngest one was at the crawl out of the car seat stage. And I'm like, oh God, please be in the car seat. Please in the car seat.
Stay in that car seat.
Yeah. And I asked the girls later, because they were little, 4 and 5. And my 5-year-old said, I just thought you were having a really bad driving day. And I was like, yeah, mother crazy driving day. It's like, no, I try not to hit everything in sight. So just really important with your pets. Really important.
Yes. Really good information today, as always, Aminah. Thank you so much. Lots of valuable things that we can take in. And again, as we close out the show, we're talking today about coexisting cohesively, all living creatures together. So Aminah and I'm just going to speak for you on your behalf. We would really appreciate if you would think about this often, daily, regularly. How can we all coexist together? How can we live in gratitude, in kindness, and really in compassion? And I'd love for you to share with our listeners and our viewers. We have new people joining us all the time, and they might be watching this a week from now, 2 weeks from now. Who knows? Maybe they're watching it now. Maybe they're listening and they want to know, hey, I'd like to get in touch with Aminah. What all does she do? What does she offer? And how can I reach out to her?
The short answer is bridgingworlds.us. I try to put everything there about getting in contact with me and all of the links. I am on Facebook. I love silly animal stuff. I love educating everybody about what's going on in the animal world. Fireworks are coming up. And so a lot of articles coming out here imminently about how to get through July 4th. And the sad stories that had been shared with me just this year already, with the first ones coming out in this last week, of people talking about the deaths they've had to do. So just trying to educate. If you have pet pictures, we love to see them. We love to see them. And all of the past episodes on US Global TV, I'm so fortunate to have spent this last year with Dr. JACALYN, are all there on YouTube. So please, look us up on USA Global TV, and there's a lot of videos there. But my Facebook has all those links, and you can reach out to me I take care of people all over the world, and I am an empath, so I feel what you feel about your pets, and we can work on it as a trainer, as a psychic, wherever and whatever you need. I can help. I hope.
Thank you, Aminah. And thank you for being such a loyal supporter of our channel. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great sunny weekend.
Yes, it's not happening here, but it is sunny some places.
Could you send some rain? You know, little vials at a time. We could really use it.
Believe me, I would love to. All right, we'll see you next week then.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. This is our last broadcast from sunny, not so much rainy Florida. We'll be joining you next week from New Jersey, from our other studio, and we look forward to welcoming our new guests, and we thank the guests we've had already. In case you're not aware, we started 2 new shows this week. The first one is Global Homes and Gardens, and it's open to everyone. It's open to everyone who wants to share their home with us. They want to share anything, whether you have a big garden or maybe you just have one plant, and whatever that plant means to you, you are welcome to share and inspire others. And our other show is Aging Gracefully with Humor. So please go over to our website. This week we have 26 shows and 29 shows, 23 shows like this, a talk show, and then 6 shows that are presentation shows with our experts who are talking heads. So I thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and expertise to my co-hosts, to the expert presenters on Talking Heads, to our elevated listeners, and to our panelists. We have 2 panel shows now, A Woman's Prerogative, and that is a show for women, by women, and about women, and our show for men, by men, and about men, and that's called Wild at Heart, Bonfire Talks, Real, Uncut, Authentic. We are also starting a health show that will be a panel show as well. So if you'd like to be a panelist, please reach out to me. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please reach out to me. If you'd like to sponsor our shows, please reach out to me. We have some new production partners who would be happy to make a sponsorship for you. And the pricing is really very fair. So we want to make everything accessible as much as possible as we can here at USA Global TV and radio. Thank you again. We'll be signing off. As I mentioned, we'll see you next week. Bye for now. He was supposed to